Hi there, welcome back to the channel. No, it's not the M2. This is a 2016 LP610-4 Lamborghini Huracan. I'm in Southern California, close to the Pacific Coast Highway. I've turboed this car and hopefully I can share the enjoyment of this experience. From the beginning, I can tell you this is a grin machine. You simply get in it, step on the gas, and you're just grinning ear to ear. Does that have anything to do with the performance? That I'll be checking out later. But why is it a grin machine? Because I've left the top down and hopefully you can hear it. Stiff springs. You go over bumps and the car is just bouncing. It's bouncing because the dampers aren't really controlling the springs anymore. You're better off ride quality wise with a stiffer damper to match the springs. It'd be interesting if I find the volume control on the radio, but I'll see how that goes. Actually, I like the way the car lets you shift into manual and then goes back, not immediately, but pretty quickly to automatic mode. So rather than select manual mode, you leave it in automatic and shift when you want, which is the way things should, a transmission should work intuitively anyway. Say, don't drive a car like this if you don't like getting attention. And this car is white. I couldn't imagine if you had a lime green one or some other really crazy color. This is probably the most innocuous color you could get for a car like this. This knob is for the volume. Yep, this car is really a good time. The V10 makes some very nice noise in sport mode. In Strata, it is pretty comfortable actually. There we go. This car makes some really nice noise in sport mode. In Strata, the normal mode, it's pretty comfy actually, and the automatic functions really well. Motorcycle. But I was actually taking him up to about 60. But I think everybody knows in Newport Beach there's pretty serious enforcement, so better off behaving yourself. Well, you get a better idea of what the wind noise is like in the cabin, or the wind disturbance in the cabin with the windows up. It has a very tiny rear windshield, as you can see, which should stop some of the buffeting, but you still get buffeted a fair amount. The ride quality is great, I have to say. It is really not a brutal ride at all. Automatic mode, the transmission is really responsive. I mean, it is really, select gears probably where you would select them in a normal situation. Keeps the car right about 3,000 RPM, doesn't drop it down to extremely low RPM, shift up prematurely. It's really pretty nice. Alright, the trickiest thing I've found so far is getting used to having the turn signals on the steering wheel, not on the column, as a button on the steering wheel. under any car next to you. It'd be pretty funny if you could see in the camera as I pull up next to this 4x4 what the relative height comparison is. I think the car would scoot under that truck. But it seems to be non-stop attention, and I've only been in this car for about 15 minutes. I chat with somebody on a motorcycle, waves from everybody else, and everybody else wants to slow down and take a look. Because of the tinted windows, everybody strains to see who is actually in the car. Once again, here you find yourselves in a very well-enforced town where the speed limit is 30 miles an hour. And you better not be going faster than 35. So, I'm not going faster than 35. Why do you buy this car? That's why you buy this car. Oh, hi there. I wanted to make sure I can provide a wrap-up of a 2-day experience in a Lamborghini Huracan, and now I'm at night with the top down, so I hope the audio is decent, and you probably can't see me anyway because it's at night, but by the light of the street light. Truly interesting experience. The car reflects all the benefits of the Audi components. The infotainment, dash, everything else is really excellent. The switches, logical. You're never going to worry about sticky switches in this car. And stereo, the rest of the stuff works great. Steering feel, nice and heavy in driving situations, yet at slow speed, light and comfortable and easy to maneuver. Interestingly enough, for a car with 600 horsepower and 4-wheel drive, it launches nicely with no loss of traction, but it really is not blindingly quick. I mean, it's 0 to 60 in the mid-3s, I guess, but it doesn't really push you back in your seat from 4,000 RPM with your foot to the floor. So, compared to a turbo car, a Turbo S, McLaren 570, it doesn't give you a strong feeling of acceleration, frankly. However, it is the normally aspirated V10 is a huge plus in this car. It is just phenomenal. The sounds the car makes are just terrific. And hopefully you'll be able to hear some more of that as I continue on my journey here. But acceleration sounds phenomenal. Decel, pops, bangs. The car is just terrific. It is really, it's everything you want from listening to an exotic. It is, it just wails, crackles when you slow it down. It is everything you really want. I'll be able to put in the segment with just having the car parked and revving the car, but parked, revving the car in sport or Corsa mode, track mode. It sounds really good. It sounds really good.
So this is really the best part of this car, is the sound. So I wanted to make sure I recorded some of the revs of this car in Corsa mode, which is the best. So hope this comes out well. Now if that wasn't hot, I don't know what is.
One of the other things about the car is that the seats, it's typical, I guess, that some people experience in a coupe, a mid-engine coupe. You're limited as to how far you can recline the seat. So either you move the seat up and then you're able to recline it more, but if you have to push the seat back in order to accommodate longer legs, you're not able to recline the seat, so you're sitting more upright. Now, if you're driving around the car for 15 minutes, that's fine, but if you drive around in the car for an hour, it starts to make a pretty big difference in your overall comfort. So, something to keep in mind if you're bigger. Well, of course, all of these cars have been designed. The older ones especially were designed for smaller Italians in mind, I think. But one thing about the car that put a damper on the experience a bit for me was the lack of rearward visibility, which is no big surprise for a Lamborghini, I guess. I couldn't imagine what it's like in an Aventador, but in this car, the styling is so great, but the net result of the styling is that you can hardly see anything in the back. Here, you love the sound of this car. The result of the styling in the back, the rear visibility is horrible. So, I mean, trying to change lanes to the blind side, your blind spot, there's really no way to check it almost, unless you have the top down and then you can look over the car to see if there's anybody coming or if there's anybody in your blind spot. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to see. One funny thing about this car is that the cowl is so low, the windshield is raked so severely that you pull up to a stoplight, the stoplights are about exactly where the windshield frame is. You can hardly see whether the light is green or red. It's hard to get this kind of enjoyment from anything else. Terrific job of exhaust tuning from a stock exhaust. It's a lot of fun within the legal speed limit. I'm not exceeding the speed limit. I have to say, I really enjoyed my time with this car. Some of the eccentricities are few. One of the ones is that the side windows are operated on the center console, which is just, the ergonomics are messed up with that. Also, I suppose like the new Ferraris, the turn signals are on the steering wheel on a button on the left side. Now, this particular car, maybe it's broken, but there's no way to turn on a lane change turn signal. So every time you turn on the signal, you have to be sure to turn it off to cancel it later. And in a car like this, it doesn't really easily come to mind. So it's just annoying. It is much more simplified just to have the simple stock on the side for the turn signal. But I think the complications like that are kind of are few for a car like this, so the eccentricities I can live with, and otherwise things are pretty straightforward, and it's pretty easy to feel right at home in the car. Also, compared to what a BMW and Porsche have, the principal difference is Ferrari and Lamborghini both have the paddles on the column. BMW and Porsche have the paddles on the wheel. It's a big difference. You know, Lamborghini makes a very big paddle to accommodate that, and you need the big paddle because while you're turning the wheel, the paddle is not going to be there unless it's a pretty big paddle. But the logic of having the paddles on the wheel is what makes much more sense to me. So, I don't know, one thing or another, you definitely get used to it, so it's okay, but I certainly prefer it the other way. Alright, and certainly I've gotten used to having the paddles on the wheel, but I guess the Ferrari and Lamborghini fans are used to having it on the column, and there's probably an argument that that's, at least I know where the paddles are all the time. They're always here and here, but personal preference. I also think with McLaren they're attached to the wheel, so in any case. Might as well talk about ride quality. Ride quality in the car, driven it most of the time in sport mode. It has 20 series tires. They're 245/30 20s in the front, very low profile tires. The ride quality has been very good. I found the ride quality to be very good. It is certainly stiff, but I don't think it's quite GT3 stiff. Compared to my M2 competition, I don't think it's M2 competition stiff either in sport mode. And you have kind of a Strata street comfort mode too, which is a little, I'm not sure how much it adjusts the suspension actually. Suspension doesn't seem to change much, so I wouldn't be that surprised to learn that the suspension isn't adjusting at all, but I'll have to research that later. Now, compared to a 570 McLaren, and I know the suspension did adjust in that car, the dampers adjust electronically, not the sway bars, but the ride in that car was better. Smoother, much more comfortable if that's what you're looking for. But you're in a car like this, I don't think you're really looking for a totally comfortable ride, but you're looking for a tolerable ride, presuming you want to be in the car for more than half an hour. So, in the case of the Huracan, I think it certainly gives you a livable ride. I mean, I guess if you wanted to commute to work, and you had a half-hour commute, it would certainly be tolerable in a car like this. sum up 2 days of ownership of a Lamborghini Huracan? Well, overall the experience was extremely good. For what is really an exotic with probably a close to $300,000 sticker, the car was really refined. It seemed very well put together. In a lot of senses, it didn't seem very Italian, actually. And no, I'm not in the Huracan. I am in a Mercedes AMG GT at the moment, actually. A little hint of what is to come on the channel. So the car was really reliable. The Audi electronics were great. If you're used to them, it's certainly a snap. They're fairly intuitive. The stuff was super reliable, and the car, as a naturally aspirated car, it doesn't give you that torque and hit you get from a turbocharged car, which I think we're all becoming more and more used to. Nevertheless, it gave you everything you would expect from a normally aspirated car. Extremely good engine noise. The car just sounds terrific on acceleration and deceleration. It's got your crackles, but it's got that roar you get when you nail the throttle. So from that aspect, the car is really a ton of fun. You open the exhaust valves in the thing and it is hot. And it gets everything you'd expect from a Huracan. You know, it's got looks from the front, looks from the back. As a Spyder, you put the top down, you're attracting attention. I wouldn't want to own one of those cars. I wouldn't recommend anybody own one of those cars unless you were interested in attracting attention or can deal with attracting attention, put it that way. But really, the car was perfect, and my driving experience over a couple hundred miles, no issues whatsoever. No issues in functionality, issues with the car, and in fact, for a rental with 8,000 miles, it was still in excellent condition. So I'd have to say it was wearing heavy use extremely well too, which is certainly a serious statement to make. So I was very favorably disposed. I mean, looking at recent cars listed, I saw a car with a $270,000 sticker that was a coupe that they were selling for over about $220,000. So I think overall the buying public is also saying this is a great, reliable car, and they are really retaining value. I hadn't followed the market very closely, but they seem to have retained really good value, which is kind of surprising for that kind of a car, but nevertheless, really retaining value. So that's my recommendation. It's certain, and I would put it kind of in the category of, for the money, not the quickest car you can probably buy, but certainly one that is fun, exciting, and seems like a pretty reliable exotic, frankly. I think the incorporation of the Audi elements into the car are probably a huge positive for people looking at, interested in an Italian exotic. All the looks, all the flair, V10 motor that sounds terrific, yet it's something that you're probably going to be able to get into, push the start button, and know that it's going to run. That's all for now. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for tuning in. Appreciate the likes, and please subscribe for future videos. Thanks very much.